Perfect. Vamos. Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi Demai, Perek Zayin, Halacha Ches. We are, God willing, going to be making the siyum today, Mazel Tov. We're going to be learning in the Daf and Daf Ayin Zayin. We're going to start from Daf Ayin Zayin all the way on top of the Amid. The Gemara will begin by asking a question on the second case of the Mishnah. It will clarify some detail about the cases where the person did not designate Ma'aser Rishon for all of the 100 barrels, but only for some of them, whether it is for 50 of them or whether we had in the final case only for 10 of them. And in order to understand the Gemara, we're going to review the first two cases of the Mishnah. But before we do that, I just would like to share that our daf today is going to be referring back to one of the Shmoina Asar Davos that we learn about in Bavli Shabbos, that Gimel Amid Beis, that Ba'aliyas, Hananya, Ben Chizkiah, Ben Goren, there was a time where there were more Talmidei B'Shamai than Talmidei Beis Hillel, and they rendered various halachic rulings based on Shitas B'Shamai, and one of those rulings is that if a person drinks beverages that are tamei in the amount of a revius or more, but if they drink a beverage that's tamei, midrabanan, they become tamei. In other words, really, what is able to impart tuma to Adam? It's amazing. Hashgacha Pratis, we're learning all about this in the Rambam. And a Rishon midoi raisa can only impart tuma to oichlin or mashkin. Even chulin can become a sheni. But Adam or Kalim, midoi raisa, cannot become a sheni. Mashkin, max, is going to be a rishon. So it cannot render a person tamei. Nevertheless, the Chachamim were afraid that if a kohen who is eating truma and who has the truma in his own mouth or in her mouth, if at that time they'll be drinking mashkin tameim, truma not only can become a sheni, truma can become a shlishi. So they might make the truma tamei when it's in their mouth. So to avoid that, the Chachamim made a takana. That's one of the 18 decrees that any person, not only a kohen, who drinks mashkin tameim in the amount of a revius or more, they become tamei midrabanan. Question we're going to have in our sugya: what will happen, Chevra, if a person is drinking mashkin that's only safek tamei, as we'll have a case over here? Will that create that isur derabanan? Now, I know that people are going to say, what's called the shayla? Safek midoraisa l'chumra, safek miderabanan l'kula. That will be a big part of the conversation today. Yet, the Gemara is going to conclude at the end of the whole daf, and we will also have to go a little bit into some of what we learned in Psachim, in the sugya, what we call of Rabbi Chanina Skana Koyanim. That's Psachim Babli Daf Yud Daled. The last few daf of the first chapter of Psachim was also all about Tum and Tara. But actually, it's a machlekes tanoim whether mashkin, we said mashkin can never render a person tamei. That's really subject to a machlekes tanoim. That will lead us to an understanding. And again, our topic that if a person had a safek tuma mashkin that's only safek tamei, well, the Rabbi will hold that drinking it will also render you tamei. That will be the way we'll understand the topic that we will be discussing. But like we mentioned, to appreciate the opening line of the final daf of today's daf, we have to quickly review the first two cases of the Mishnah. So if you want, you can even look. I'll read it inside on daf ayin vav on the base all the way at the top. Perek Zayin halacha ches. The case of the Mishnah is that a person owns 100 barrels of wine. They are organized in a way where they were joined in rows of 10 by 10. And all of these barrels were already misukan from Truma Gedoyla. There is no need to take off Truma Gedoyla. Where are we up to? It's Tevel concerning Ma'aser Rishon and Ma'aser Sheni. And the focus will be, as we had in the previous Mishnah, Halacha Zayin, the focus will be regarding Trumas Ma'aser. Because even though Ma'aser Rishon has to be designated, actually you can only remove Trumas Ma'aser from the Ma'aser Rishon. The Ma'aser Rishon itself need not, it doesn't have to be given to a Levi. if a person were to give the value of it to the Levi, they cover the Ma'aser Rishon. Ma'aser Sheni, we know, lechatchila can be exchanged over money. True, if the owner is doing it, he has to add a chaimish, but he can exchange it over money. That which must be removed, and what must be removed dafke from the Ma'aser Rishon is Trumas Ma'aser. So the first case of the Mishnah was, I'm just going to read it quickly inside me. You had 10 rows, 10 by 10, and the owner said, Shura hachitzoina achas. Ma'aser, he designated one of the 4 outer rows. We don't know whether he meant the outer rows horizontally, the only 2 horizontals. The outer rows vertical, 2 verticals. In other words, really the suffix is regarding potentially any one of the 36 outermost barrels. From it, you have to take off 1 barrel. But if you're going to decide, it was the barrel from the top row, and you take 1 from the top, and you say this is Trumas Ma'aser, it will be ineffective if the Ma'aser Rishon is from the other rows. So you would have thought, you have to take off 4 barrels, as we learned in the previous Mishnah, not that you would have to gift 4 barrels to a kohen, but you would have to sell the 4 by the kohen paying for 3. So what's the loss? Well, you can say, so gubaldik. Yeah, anyways, you have to give 1. So, because whenever a kohen buys something that is a suffix truma, in our case, suffix trumas ma'aser, the financial value of that barrel is lesser. So there is a loss if the owner would have to sell 4 and only charge 3. That means there would be 3 barrels for which it cannot get its proper value. Is machadish the Mishnah? You don't have to do that. What do you have to do? Says the Mishnah. If you take, let's say, the top left and the bottom right, or the top right and the bottom left, you take 2 corners that go diagonally opposite each other, what do you accomplish? Like we said, al derech, we find by kachin, shtaim shein arba, right? That those 2 cover all of the 4 shuras, which any one of the 4 you had in mind, having 2, you covered all possibilities. So what did you accomplish? Yeah, you're still going to lose 1. Not losing legamre. You'll have to sell 2 to a kohen. He'll pay for 1. He'll pay the meizoil of truma for 1. But at least you minimize the loss. And that's the goal of the Tan of the Mishnah in all 5 cases, to minimize the loss that the owner will have in such a case where when he made Ma'aser Rishon, there was something that was not clear, or it was clear and he went away and the people around him don't know what he meant. Now there's a certain doubt. Now, the second case of the Mishnah, and we already mentioned, second case of the Mishnah is a person only addressing half of his wine cellar, only 50 barrels, but that's the case of the Mishnah. So if you have to address 50 of them, what do you need to give first for Ma'aser Rishon? A half of a row. So that was the next case in the Mishnah was Chatzi Shura Hachitzoinam Achas, again Ma'aser. Now, how many half rows do you have, David? 8 half rows. If there are 4 outer rows, so there are 8 half outer rows. Now, I know that from it, you don't have to give a barrel. From each half a row, from whichever one it was, if you would know, you would only have to give a half a barrel. I know that. So we're speaking now about half barrels. Here again, you would have thought that you have to now sell to a kohen 8 half barrels, charging for 7, losing 7 half. Again, says the Mishnah, you don't have to do that. What do you have to do? So in this case, noitel arba chavias ma'arba zavias. And as we had, the Kavan is a little bit tired still, but we had the pictures up yesterday, people that are using the art scroll and diagram D. So now that you give 1 from each corner, every corner, like the top right corner, is side, it's both half of the ones that are going horizontally, and it's also from the right vertical. So you covered all of the. What did you accomplish now? So now you're not losing 7 halves. How many are you losing, Chavre? 3 halves. That's what we're up to. The Gemara is going to have a bomb question. The Gemara is going to begin today by asking, why don't you find a solution where you only have to lose 1 half?
Why can't you put 2?
What do you mean by 2?
Why can't you just pick 2 instead of 4 corners? Because still the 2 is cover this way or that way.
Because since you only gave half, in other words, before, let's say in the first case,
Half might be here, it might be here. Either way, you're still covering.
No. If it's someone, leave the picture up. It's going to be helpful, Kevin. This conversation with Rabbi.
I'm going to say that picture shows the answer.
I know, but not everyone is seeing a picture. But put the picture back up. It was if I said, let's say I'm the owner, one row. So when I take the top right, that is both one of the row vertical and it's one of horizontal. But if I said half, so you're right, the top right is covering 2 half rows, but I have to cover how many half rows? 8. So if one only covers 2, I'll need 4 to cover 8. But at least, in other words, it sounds when you learn the Mishnah, great. We have a solution in which you only will lose 3 half barrels. Not lose again, not completely lose, but you're going to have to sell 3 half barrels. B'dmei truma b'zor. Asks the Gemara. That's the way we're going to learn it. V'yital shtayim. I can find a solution where you're going to only have to lose instead of 3 halves. Really, I'm telling you right now, 2 halves. 2 halves means 1 whole. Now, the Gemara's premise is based on something that we have to speak out. We mentioned that yesterday. Let's say I would have known when this guy says half a roll, I would have known which half a row. Half a row only covers 50. You have to now, you have to give my sedition for everything. You have to give Tumas Meiser for everything. So there's 50, that's Mamish Tevel. So why can't this person now, that there's a confusion, add, and I'm giving whichever half was designated for my sedition, I'm giving the other half of that half for the other 50. I don't know which one of the 8 halves, but whichever one it was, I'm giving the other half of it for the other 50 barrels as my sedition. What did I accomplish now? Now, I'm now back to the first case in the Mishnah. What's the first case in the Mishnah? Now, essentially, there is one entire shura hachitzoina that's designated for my sedition for the wholesaler. I know that I don't know which one of the 4, but over there, how many do you have to take away? The Mishnah says in the first case, only 2 loichsein. One of them you have to give away. One of them you sell the meitruma bezoil. One is 2 halves. So your loss is only 1 whole barrel, 2 halves. The way the Mishnah gave it, your loss is 3 half barrels.
He designated for those 5 in the corner.
Huh?
He designated for the 5 in the
corner. Don't say corner, half rows. I don't know why he's saying the word corner. Instead of him giving 4, the Mishnah says you have to give 4, not 5, right? Each corner. And one half you have to give. So it's from everyone, you're only giving half. I know that. But you're selling to a kohen 3 half barrels with cheap. Anyways, you have to resolve the wholesaler. So why don't you add to the half its second half? I don't know which one it is. It doesn't matter. Whichever.
When the original owner declared this row.
Half a row.
When he says half a row.
We don't know which half row.
If he takes that corner, that half row could be one of those that he designated that you're not using.
Why didn't you just add that half, make the half into a whole? I wish I remember. I remember now. My father had so much nachats. There was a guy that passed away, and he loved horses. And there was 3 kids, and they're dividing it equally, or there was a b'choir. It's a math question, and there was no way to divide it equally. The solution there was to add a horse. Sometimes when you add, and then you take it out later. You adding helps. Anyways, you have to add. Add now.
Half and a half to make it a full.
Yes, and now you're back to the first case of the Mishnah. First case of the Mishnah, how much is the owner losing? Only 1 barrel. 1 barrel is 2 halves. So why are you sticking to the second case where he's losing 3 halves? That's the Gemara. That's the way we're learning. The Gemara gives a Gavaldic answer. What do you think the Mishnah is speaking about? Someone that only gave half. So everyone, you read it, or in the last case, he only gave for 10. He's leaving the other half for later. The opposite. The Mishnah is speaking about a scenario where the owner already tithed half. All you have now is half to be resolved. And Enochanami, in the case where the whole thing was not yet tithed, and he only began the first half, this will be the solution the Mishnah would have given. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Koyen, B'Shem Rabbanan de Kesarim. I'm challenging the people over here. I don't know if Yakir is here. Do you remember Rabbi Koyen in the Bible? Rab Koyin, B'Shem Rabbanan de Keisarin, that maybe there was a Persian. The Persians, Chevra, they're filled with Kohanim. I think there was no community in the world that had more Kohanim than the Persians.
2 cities only.
Yeah, but gepakt. If they're really, really Kohanim, only God knows. But you can say the same thing on the Ashkenaz.
Shiraz and Esfahan, they're full of
Yeah.
Kohanim.
Oh, so they be Koyin, but they come B'Shem Rabbanan de Keisarin, because Keisarin is like the Beverly Hills over there in Eretz Yisrael, Lahavdol. Chashiv. That maybe I'm fitting. It's a raya to what I'm saying. No, he already designated. He already resolved the other 50. And you only have 50, so you can't add for that which was already resolved. Okay. Okay. Now the fun begins. Says the Gemara Tanei. We learned in a Braisa. If you have in front of you 2 barrels, Achas shel meiser tevel toher. By now we should be familiar. Meiser tevel means that Truma Gedoyla was removed, but it's tevel, b'negeya, meiser ishan, and meiser shem, which is the cases of our whole entire Pedic. In other words, we're not speaking about the mai, we're speaking about something that has to be taught. Now, tevel, toher, tevel, tamei, l'may nafkamina. It's very important. Chulin, Tameim are allowed to be eaten even by a kohen. Yes, we said in the intro, and let's repeat right now, that one of the Shmoina Asar Dava that was enacted by Aliyas Hananya ben Chizkiah ben Goroin, where there were more Talmidei Beishamai than Beisilol, was that midarabanan, if you eat a certain amount of tamei food, or if you drink another different amount of tamei liquid, you become tamei. Yes, but even a kohen is only not allowed to become tamei to corpse tuma. People think a kohen is allowed to become tamei. Of course not if he wants to go into the Beis Hamikdash. Of course not if he wants to eat truma. But there's no inherent isur on a kohen. A kohen can be with his wife. He becomes tamei with tumas keri. If you remember the whole question we had, that Bechlal, how can we say that a balkedi is also b'machna leviyah? We had a good question. How can the Levium Bechlal be with their wives? But it's not the derech it's what they're going to be with the wife. Run out of the tent. So we said that was something, I forgot which big scholar came back to us, that it must be that in the Machna Leviyah, there was the innermost part of the Machna Leviyah. And then there was an outer part of Machna Leviyah. It has to be that way. But anyways, coming back over here, a coin can become Tomei. But you know what, David? If the Truma is Tomei, that Truma may not be eaten. So if you have Tevel Tomei, from it, now, Meiser Rishon can be Tomei, but don't forget, from the Meiser Rishon, what will come? Trumas Meiser. So you definitely prefer not to begin with Tevel, that's Tomei, because you don't want to end up with Truma, that's Tomei. So that's the thing over here. So here, Acha shel Meisel Tevel Tor, V'acha shel Meisel Tevel Tomei. And here's the main thing. The person has a doubt in Mitzias. The person doesn't know which barrel is which. If the person would know which barrel is which, look inside that Asher Elio. Let's learn some of Farshim inside on the right column. 1, 2, 3, 5 lines from the bottom. Shomaiser Tevel Tor Maiser Tovul the Trumas Maiser V'Tor Ve'eno Yodu Aloi. That's the key here. You know, the Braisa doesn't say you don't know. I want to say like this. L'kula alma, you cannot be toidim a mafresh min al-chiv al-abtur mabtur al-achiv. Our Braisa is following the shita. This is a machlikas tanoim. That if you were to know, this is important. If you were to know, you would be chayiv to be mafresh from the barrel that's tahar for both barrels. Even though you'll end up giving, like we said, 11.1 when you are mafresh the meiser rishon from without, as we have been learning in this Masechta. You have to do that because you want to do everything you could to end up with trumas meiser, that's tohara, and that would be a solution. Our Braisa is speaking about a case where you don't know. So what are you going to end up doing? You won't remove from the toir and the tamei. Every barrel you'll take off 10% From that 10%, you're going to take off a subsequent 10%, and you're going to end up with Trumas Meiser, 2 portions, and we won't know which one is toid, which one is tummy. Okay. Says the Brais. Good. Maybe loishnei leginim, just to say leginim, chavius, just to know the measurements. Chavius is a container, and a leginim in the plural is smaller than the chavius. You take 2 different containers, smaller containers. The noitel mizu kedei trumas meiser mishteyem. Ha. And you say like this. It's kavaldik. Again, following our brayso that holds that you are not only allowed to, but you should be mafresh min atoyer al atamim. Instead of you taking out the amount needed for its barrel, from each barrel, you say that if this barrel is the one that's tahar, what I'm separating from this barrel, with the whole segment, ultimately will be trumas meiser, both for this barrel and for the next barrel. Then you do the same thing with the other barrel, all predicated on what we're saying, that when you have tamei and tahar, you have to take out from the toid ala tamei. Means if you don't have an option, you don't have an option. If all I have is tamei, I'm going to be toidim mafresh tamei. But when I have an option, I have to do it. But here I have a doubt. And the chayzer, now you pick up all these containers. One of them is trumas meiser. One of them is not. That im zehu tohod hadehi wasisi trumas meiser. The im lav, what I did is nothing. And the chayzer ba'oisa came b'shem. Okay. What you end up with, let me explain to you how great this is. There'll be a loss on the owner. Because again, whenever you have something that might be truma, you can only sell it to a coin. Well, you can sell it to a coin because when you'll sell both to the coin, you'll only charge him for one. You'll take get the demay of that one bizoil, but you're not giving it. But 1 second. Now, you fulfilled your obligation of being toidim min hatoid ala tamei.
Why do you give them 1?
Because trumas meiser you have to give to the coin. 1 second. No, you don't. Oh, now the chap will be that the coin can drink. Theoretically, you can drink both. Why can the coin theoretically drink both? Guys, remember, a coin is allowed to drink chulin that's tummy. Might make him tummy. That's the shmoina asar davar. We get it. In other words, the coin can drink both. Not because mimanavshach, when he picks up one, if this is the one that's tahar, so it's taka the one that's truma. The truma is tahar, he can drink it. If the one that he's picking up is tamei, it's tamei because it's chulin. A coin can drink chulin that's tamei. So the beauty is that none of it will get lost. He'll drink both. The person was toidim mafresh, as according to this Tana holds, always when there is an option here, it's menamuka from tahar. The only thing is there'll be a shtika loss that again he doesn't have to gift both leginim to the coin. He finds a coin, the coin pays for one, and he gets the other one for free.
So the whole chab is because chulin he can eat
The tumah.
but truma he can't.
No. Now there'll be a question. Okay, very good. It's a kavaldik. I love this. Now it's a puzzle. Now
one of them tummy?
Now each one has a suffix tumah. Now the question will be, what happens when a coin, not a coin, anyone drinks mashkin tameim? Just to remember, this takana by mashkin is only if the quantity was a devi'is or more. They have a tuma kala. Tuma kala means that all they need to do is go to the mikvah. So now the question is, does the kohen have to go to the mikvah after drinking the first to drink the second? And after he drinks the second, does he have to go to the mikvah? Or do we say that each one is safek tamei? Isn't there a general rule that's safek tuma, that's only midrabanan? We can be lenient. Maybe he wouldn't have to go to the mikvah. Or maybe not after the first, but after the second. Now vadai, one of them was tamei. That's the question. And on that we have a machlokes tanoi.
But for the Yisrael, for the person, the owner,
Yeah.
there's no.
No. Let me go weiter. No. So Avraham was saying good that don't forget if you begin with two chaviyasim, echad tamei the echad tahar, and like the Rash says ve'eno yodua loy ezo chaviyas, same thing. A Yisrael is allowed to consume chulin tameim unless there were people that they made as a hachlata to eat chulin altara, but essentially beikara then you can have tamei. But if I'm a Yisrael, if I have wine that's tamei, I also have to go to the mikveh. There's a stickle difference. I have to go to the mikveh if I want to be tahor. The kohen has to go to the mikveh to have the other if he became tamei, because a kohen who's tamei cannot have truma.
I missed one point.
Yes.
The truma
Great.
is tamei, and no one can consume it. Not a kohen.
That's correct.
Right. So when you did this shtickle where you pulled out one from each thing, how did that resolve the truma?
You need coffee
Yeah.
because since I know vadai that one anti-Semites or the rebar that and whoever's going to park is going to block that. Danny, one is tahar, one is tamei, and this guy, the person, is separating only from the tahar on both barrels. The one that's trumas ma'asir, we don't know which one is tahar, that we know. The one that's tamei is chulin, that we know for sure. So the kohen he doesn't know which one is which.
Right.
One chulin tameya, one trumas ma'asir tahira. A kohen is allowed to become tamei, but he'll become tamei. So if he becomes tamei, he'll have to go to the mikveh to drink the truma, because a kohen that's tamei cannot consume truma. But each one is only tamei misafik. So now says the Braisa, v'shoise v'toivel v'shoise. Rabbi holds that even after only drinking the first of these leginim, you only drank one. When you drank both, you can argue one of them was tamei. Here, you only drank the first. Rabbi holds you drank one. Maybe this was the chulin tamein. Doesn't matter. Chulin makes you tamei. That's the shmona, one of the takanas. So you have to go to the mikveh in order for you to be able to drink the second one.
Wait, isn't that a suffix on a suffix?
No, there's only one suffix. It's a suffix that abanan. Why is it a suffix on a suffix? In other words, if maybe the kohen drank the truma, right, the trumas ma'aser, then he's good. And going to the mikveh is not going to hurt him. Now it goes without saying that after he drinks the second one, he won't have to go to the mikveh now because there's no more truma in our story. But for him to be tahar, he'll have to go to the mikveh.
You can't drink them together.
He can definitely not drink them together.
And you have to go to the mikveh in between drinking them.
However, Rabbi Lazar ben Rabbi Shimon Oimed, no, einoi toivel ela basoif. Now, the initial understanding and the ending understanding, which will be the same, is that no. Why does he have to? Basoif means after the second, he'll have to go to the mikveh, because vadai, one of them that he consumed was tamei, but after drinking the first one, I know it's 50-50 doubt. That's a classic case where there's a tumah midrabanan, safek derabanan is lakula, even though he's drinking a truma afterwards. If doesn't matter, the truma part is the doiraisa. A tamei person cannot have truma that's tamei, but the suffix is on whether he's tamei. That's the doubt. So therefore, he argues with Rabbi, and the Gemara is asking, "My tama the Rabbi." Why would the Rabbi disagree with that? That ani oimer shema shasa mashkan tameim tchila. Why are we saying that? Because maybe the first one was the mashkan tameim daf ayin zayin amid beis. Umay tamad the Rabbi Lazar ben Rabbi Shimon, because ani oimer shema shasa mashkan tameim. In l'chayra, that's the argument. So we have to understand more behind it. You can learn the kashas on both. You can learn the kashas on Rabbi. We're going to learn the kashas more on Rabbi, because in other words, it's a doubt. So why are we not lenient? Okay. And the Gemara will attempt to understand their machlokes, not the way we said it. And then it's going to come back to explaining it exactly the way we said it. The way we said it in the beginning is problematic. We're going to go with the pshat, because why would Rabbi be machmed when it's only a suffix midrabanan? Where's it coming from? Okay. So says the Gemara, Hakol Moedim, that b'shoisa mashkin tameim, Shuhu asur loichal afilu safek truma. If the suffix is on the truma, this is a key. And I'm vaday tamei, even only vaday tamei midrabanan. Doesn't matter. The Chachamim said I'm tamei. Everyone will agree that if the suffix is on a biblical isur, which is consuming truma, when I'm tamei, and a person who's tamei cannot consume truma, a person who's tar can also not consume truma tamei. These are two separate prohibitions. The same thing with kachin, v'chulei. However, so that everyone agrees to. But suffix mashkin, kol amo moide, the ganze Welt is moide, shu mutar loichal afilu trumai vadai, because of the rule suffix truma derabanan lekula. This is the way we're going to understand that if the machlekes is the way we learned it, Rabbi is simply being machmed, and Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon is being mekel. Why would Rabbi be machmed? So again, so because of that, we're gonna propose a new understanding, and almost every one of the Noise Kalim learns this proposal very differently. We're gonna go with the pshat of the Pnei Moshe, and we'll read it inside. Ella suggesting Gemara. I want you to know what we're suggesting now will be undone, and we're gonna go back to the initial understanding. The way we learned it on Amud Aleph is the way the pshat is going to be. But right now, a whole new understanding. Elo ko anan kaimin b'hadamas nisa. Think of us at Edmonton. I'll tell you that my time at Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. Oh, let me just add words over here that the Gemara doesn't give. Kishitas Yerushalmi. You should have some Haravanya. So at least we have it over here in the Pnei Moshe, and here in the art school wrote it in over here. Guys, one of these leginin had less than a revius. Wow. It's amazing. The Gemara doesn't even say those words, but you'll see it later. Now, the whole gezerah was only if you drink a revius or more. So if you didn't drink a revius, now what? So let's go. My Talmud Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. What does he mean by that? Guys, we're going to learn the Pnei Moshe, and everyone learns it differently. The Pnei Moshe is relatively right, the fifth, sixth line from the top of the must be, they're speaking about another case. You're missing a step. Now, so what's the issue? Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon Savar, the ma'achar she'al yidei zeh, al yidei zeh nisbar ratuma keloim. Afal gav shalisa she'elo pochus mizem, according to the way the Pnei Moshe learns, and pochus mrevius mizem, neither cup had a revius. So now my problem is, before we even get to Rebbe, why would he become tamei even basoy? Right, that was the words. The words of Rabbi Elazar Shimon was, if we have the right girsa, that eino toivel ela basoy. Why even basoy? You might start of them. Oh, the kamakim hoyel that va'al yedei shasa shneim nizbarara hatuma. Now the tuma, guys, you have to see the chiddush and not Rebbe. Like, how will you explain Rebbe? There wasn't two tameis less than the revius. I get that. If when it comes to eating and drinking, right? That's the whole thing about right now by Yom Kippur. If a person has to, God forbid, break the fast, the whole thing of shiurim. Don't forget, even if you drink them within the time frame, one of them is not tamei. The mimon of shasa achshav mashkin temein, you drink temein, not in the amount of the revius. Because of this problem of why would he even hold that? You get the problem over here. If neither of them had a revius, then even though you're mitzdaref the first and the second, but you don't have tuma in both. And because of that, the later Rab Chaim Kanievsky has another pshat. Not like the Pnei Moshe, not like them. Like he says, it must be that the second one had the revius.
First one was a partial revius, and the second one was a full revius.
That's right, and that's what the Rabbi Art School went with that. I just want to go with the Pnei Moshe. We'll learn everything is beautiful. There's a big chiddush here, but that's what the Pnei Moshe is saying. Let's learn the Pnei Moshe now. What about Rebbe? Rebbe is hard to understand. The Rebbe Savanami the Baalma loichashina l'safik mashkin. The key that we're looking here, which it's not going to stand anyways, is that how can Rebbe say safik tuma derabanan l'chuma? That's the question. You're right, Anachanami. Normally, if there's a suffix, if mashkin were tamim and you drank it, you don't have to go to the mikveh. Look at this. This logic is easier to understand, even on the Pnei Moshe. Here, you didn't drink a revius. And if the person would not go to the mikveh, he'll drink not even a revius of a suffix. And you're going to say you don't have to go to the mikveh. The person won't know why doesn't he have to go to the mikveh. Is it because it was less than a revius? Or was it because it was only a suffix? He won't know which one of the reasons. Why did they tell me not to go to the mikveh? Not because I drank less. He will think that the only reason why he doesn't have to go to the mikveh is because each one has a doubt, and therefore what? It's true. And therefore the person erroneously will think that if each one were to have a revius and he were to drink both, he would erroneously think he still doesn't have to go to the mikveh because each one is a suffix. So to prevent that mistake, he was so machmir that even though it didn't even have, like there's two reasons why you're not tummy. Aleph, B'chaldu wasn't revius. Beis, it's only suffix tamei.
This is one is revius, one's not.
Let's go to Pnei Moshe. None of them are as the revius. He's going to come and think that the only reason why he doesn't have to go to the mikvah is because of each one is a suffix mashkin tameim. And what will be his mistake? His mistake will be that if it would have a revius, he also would not go to the mikvah, not only after the first, not even after the second. That's what the Pnei Moshe is explaining to Chumra of Rebbe. The chashinen that revius min hasheni, he'll drink a revius from the second is suffix coming. V'lo yitpol. The Meiman Omer Gamza Savik Mashkinu. That's not good.
Is drinking a part of less than a revius from both of them, he still would not require.
That's what I'm saying. Well, actually, according to the Pnei Moshe, you make a heat starfus. Yes, you do. Let's go to the Pnei Moshe saying you do. Because even though
and then the less the Tamei half revius would make the Toher half revius.
Yeah, Tamei.
And then it's like you have a tummy.
Yes. In other words, since there are two reasons why a person wouldn't have to go to the mikveh, and the drinker would make the mistake by thinking that the only reason is because it's suffix mashkin, what he wouldn't chap is that when you drink the second, after the second, it's no longer a suffix according to the Pnei Moshe, even if neither of them had a revius, because you're mitzvah upon with the other. So therefore, Rebbe is machmir even by the first. Let's go with that. That's what he's saying. The Gemara is saying it's too big of a stretch. Frek the Gemara inside. 1 second. My time of the Rebbe. No, what? My time of the Elazar Rab Shimon. Let's read the whole thing inside. Ma'achar she'al yidei va'al yidei zeh espara tuma don't feel. With the Pnei Moshe, it's even though neither of them had a revius, he's saying that clearly, my friends. Nevertheless, when you drink both, you for sure drink something that's tamei, and together you have a revius. So basoif, you have to go to the mikveh. My time of the Rebbe, shelo yovel l'dei revius. The revius means that if the person won't have to go to the mikveh after the first drinking, even after he drank it again, he'll think that he doesn't have to go to the mikveh. So to prevent him from making that mistake, the Chachamim were machmir, and they said, no. Even after the first, you have to go to the mikveh. But look at the irony, but if the first would have a revius, if the first would have a revius and the second would have a revius, then even Rebbe would be moida, you only have to go to the mikveh after the second. Because not going to the mikveh after the first, it will be clear why you're not going to the mikveh. Not because there's no revias and the guy won't know that you don't combine them. It's because it's safek mashkin. When you drink the second, it's no longer safek mashkin because you drink something that's tummin.
Less than revius.
So only less than revias, less is more. Fragt die Gemara, my time the Rab Shimon b'shoyse bachos min revias. But lately the Rabbi Rab Shimon shloim le revias. Rebbe's logic is so gewaldig that we're saying Rabbi Rab Shimon cannot argue with it. There's many different ways of learning this Gemara, but it's fine. We're learning it the way that Pnei Moshe learns it, and the Gemara goes back because of this problem. We would prefer to say that forget about the less than the Revius. Everything has a Revius. The premise of the question is, why would Rebbe be Mahmed if Safek Tamei the Rabbanan should be Lakula? And the answer is because according to the Marafulda now, that in Rab Chanina's Kana Kahanan, at the end of the first chapter of Masechtas Pesachim in the Babli, the Gemara actually quotes a Braisa that has in it a Machloikes Tanoim. Guys, don't forget there are certain mashkin that are tamei on the level of an av. Dam nida is an av. The zera itself is an av. It's not like, so when we said that miday raisa mashkin are never matami adam, that's subject to a Machloikes Tanoim. If we were to go that mashkin tameim is matama adam doy raisa, then it's no longer a suffix derabanan. And therefore, that's what the Gemara is saying. Let's go back. That's the way we say it in the Yerushalmi. There's no less than revias, mitztaref revias. It's just about, did you drink mashkin tameim? Look inside the Marafulda, 3 lines, 2 lines under the Gemara, 2-3 lines. Ella machaber tarket the shanim meikara and bechule over revius maide. But the whole thing is revius. The Rabbi Savar, guys, listen to these words. That Tumas mashkin letame yachenim is midoy raisa. Bomba. Everyone holds that Safek Tamei Derabanan is lakula. Who told you it's Safek Tamei Derabanan? Mashkin, that's tameim is matame yu midoy raisa. Finish. According to some Tanoim, and Rabbi goes with that opinion. However, only chashash because he holds that no, Safek mashkin is only midrabanan. Mashkin temein is only midrabanan. Safek mashkin is a Safek to midrabanan. Safek to midrabanan, you go lakula. The only time he says that you become tamei is lebasoy. This is a perfect ending from a Masechtas Demai. On this we say Hadran Allah Hamazaming. And we're going to make a Slika Masechtas Demai when we make a public seal. And God willing, tomorrow morning, we're starting with the exciting Masechtas Kalayim, as we'll speak out in the introductory words, the many types of Kalayim that you have been doing. So